Chapter 1565. Yin Jing. Jing Yu's expression abruptly turned frosty as she stared fixedly at Ling Xian. You're from the poison sect, so what if I am? Ling Xian turned around indifferently. If Brother Yin Jing won't do it, then I'll do it myself. You hurt the person I love the most, so I'll let you have a taste of losing someone you love the most. What do you mean by that? Jing Yu heard Ling Xian's words, and her heart clenched as if she had thought of something terrifying. She quickly turned to Xiao Chun and looked at Xiao Chun nervously. Xiao Chun, do you feel uncomfortable anywhere? I'm fine. Xiao Chun also frowned. Xiao Chun and Jing Yu didn't feel anything, but they thought that Ling Xian couldn't be saying something scary. This wasn't Jing Yu or Xiao Chun. What's going on? Could it be? Jing Yu's expression changed slightly. Then, she seemed to have thought of something. Her pupils suddenly shrank as she looked at Little Potato, who was sleeping peacefully in Jing Yu's arms. Little Potato was sleeping peacefully. He didn't make any noise for such a long time. Jing Yu slowly reached out and gently pulled open the coat around Little Potato. Jing Yu saw that Little Potato's skin was bluish-black. It was so obvious that Jing Yu's expression changed drastically. She felt Little Potato's incomparably weak breathing, and her legs turned to jelly. Ling Xian, what did you do to Little Potato? Jing Yu's eyes were filled with fear and brutality. She looked at Ling Xian with an icy cold and furious gaze. Ha! I said that I'll let you have a taste of losing someone you love deeply. Ling Xian's pitch-black eyes stared at Jing Yu as she spoke. I'm going to kill you, Jing Yu said, and was about to rush out. However, before she could do so, Xiao Qin's pitch-black figure rushed in front of Ling Xian like a sharp sword and grabbed Ling Xian's neck in an instant. Where's the antidote? Xiao Qin's pitch-black eyes were filled with coldness, as if he wanted to break Ling Xian's neck at any moment. Cough, cough. Xiao Qin's grip on Ling Xian's neck was so strong that Ling Xian's face instantly turned red. She held her breath and said, I don't have the antidote. You just wait to collect your child's corpse, Katja. Xiao Chun didn't hesitate to break Ling Xian's neck. The sweat on Ling Xian's forehead instantly dripped down. Her eyes were filled with pain. Give me the antidote, Xiao Chun said again. Pft. Ha ha. Ling Xian panted violently as she looked at Xiao Chun and spat out a mouthful of saliva in disdain. Xiao Chun. Just as Xiao Chun was about to make a move, Jing Yu's panicked scream rang out. Xiao Chun turned his head and saw Jing Yu squatting on the ground with tears of panic in her eyes. Little Potato. Jing Yu's heart trembled violently as she looked at Xiao Chun. What's wrong? Xiao Chun strode over. He was probably too anxious and almost tripped over a rock. His pitch-black eyes were filled with panic. Little Potato, who was in Jing Yu's arms, was abnormally pale. His pitch-black eyes were filled with coldness. His body trembled violently as he looked at Little Potato's lips that were slowly changing color. Chapter 1566. What do we do? What do we do? Jing Yu was completely flustered this time. No matter what she encountered, Jing Yu had never been this flustered. But when she saw Little Potato's faint aura, it seemed like it would dissipate at any moment. Jing Yu was extremely flustered. Ha, dead, they're all dead. Ling Xian's eyes were filled with venom as she glared at Jing Yu. They're all dead. Ling Xian. Jing Yu's eyes were filled with iciness. There's no cure for this poison. You'll never have an antidote. Ling Xian laughed cruelly at Jing Yu. I'm going to kill you. Jing Yu's golden green eyes were filled with thick killing intent as she walked towards Ling Xian. Poison sect. Poison sect. If anything happens to Little Potato, I'll bury the entire poison sect with him. Huh. Ling Xian laughed as she looked at Jing Yu and Xiao Chun. Did you think that I'd come out alive this time? Jing Yu was about to walk over when she saw Ling Xian's lips move as if she'd bitten off something. Xiao Chun also sensed Ling Xian's movements and reached out to pinch Ling Xian's mouth. But he was a step too late. Dark red blood seeped out of the corner of Ling Xian's mouth as she looked at Jing Yu and Xiao Chun with a cruel smile. Just like that, she took her own life in front of Jing Yu and Xiao Chun. Jing Yu and Xiao Chun were both stunned by Ling Xian's swift death. There was no cure for this poison. What do we do now? Let's go. To Godly Physician Valley. The expression on Xiao Chen's face quickly changed. He looked up at Jingyu and said without hesitation, "Don't worry." Right. Let's go to Miracle Physician Valley. Jingyu was pleasantly surprised when she heard Xiao Chen's words. Oh yes, there's still Qingge and Miracle Medical Valley. Little Potato will be fine. Go. Jingyu, Xiao Chen, and the rest left in a hurry. All they could think about was Little Potato. Xing Yi and 15th Interrogation Officer were also shocked. They didn't expect such a huge change to happen in just a few words. He seemed to be using all of his strength to swing the horsewhip in his hand and gallop into the distance. Jingyu and Xiao Chen had left for a long time. The forest was incomparably dark. Ling Xian, who was originally lying dead on the ground, was so quiet. However, at this moment, the hand by her side trembled slightly. It was so clearly visible. When night fell, a woman dressed in white walked out of the dense forest step by step. Under the moonlight, her pitch-black eyes flashed with monstrous, murderous intent. Jingyu and Xiao Chen were on their way to Miracle Medical Valley, as though they had gone mad. Xiao Chen, have you been in Miracle Medical Valley before? Jingyu hugged Little Potato tightly as she looked at Xiao Chen and asked. No. Xiao Chen took a deep breath, looked at Jingyu, and said, Qingge told me that Miracle Medical Valley is deep in the valley. We have to go down the cliff. What? Jingyu's face instantly paled when she heard this, and her heart trembled violently. Miracle Medical Valley isn't that easy to enter. Xiao Chen took a deep breath and said, if Qingge was here, perhaps we would know the entrance to Miracle Medical Valley and be able to enter directly. However, Qingge isn't here right now. We don't even have anyone to guide us. Chapter 1567. Qingge once told me that Miracle Physician Valley pursues sincerity. If you can descend from the cliff to the bottom of the valley, it will prove that you are sincere in seeking treatment. Jingyu's expression changed the moment she heard Xiao Chen's words. Miracle Physician Valley pursues this so-called sincerity when it's a matter of life and death. Jingyu's eyes were filled with anger as she said, if someone is about to die, who would have the time to descend from the top of the valley? Xiao Chen slowly frowned and said, life and death are determined by fate. The people of Miracle Physician Valley are going against the heavens to begin with. Forcefully saving people is not something we can decide. Jingyu's expression changed the moment she heard Xiao Chen's words. She seemed to have thought of something and couldn't say a word. Miracle Physician Valley's methods weren't wrong, but Jingyu felt extremely stifled. Learning the art of saving people and yet setting such an unwritten rule? Is it saving people or harming them? What's the point of learning the art of saving people? Jingyu's eyes were filled with hatred as she clenched her fists tightly. She looked at Little Potato, who was frowning in her arms, and her heart ached. Little Potato, you have to be strong. Jingyu planted a gentle kiss on Little Potato's cheek. Her eyes were filled with determination, but they were also filled with tears. It was so heart-wrenching. Jingyu and Xiao Chen walked and asked around to find out where Miracle Physician Valley was. They followed the directions given by the person who gave them directions and walked as fast as they could towards the top of the winding and steep mountain. The path was so rugged that Jingyu and Xiao Chen had no choice but to abandon the carriage halfway and ride horses. However, as they went up, the path became narrower and narrower. Jingyu and Xiao Chen could only rely on their own 2 feet to climb up step by step. This small path was like a continuous loop on the mountain. Jingyu and Xiao Chen walked for an entire day before they reached the top of the mountain. Little Potato's expression was getting worse and worse. The greenish-black color on his arms had spread to his neck and the corners of his mouth. Little Potato couldn't speak anymore. Previously, he would open his eyes and babble a few words as if he was in pain. However, Little Potato was now in Jingyu's arms with his eyes tightly shut, as if he would leave at any moment. Jingyu was extremely flustered. Wait here first. I'll see what's wrong with this cliff. Xiao Chen and Jingyu followed the others to the top of the mountain. Looking at the cliff, it was really as Xiao Chun had described. It was so steep. Jingyu saw some tattered clothes and moldy ropes on the cliff. It was obvious that many people had climbed here before. However, Jingyu didn't know if they had succeeded in the end. "No, let's go down together." Jingyu looked deeply at the child in her arms and said, "We can't wait any longer." Xiao Chun also looked at Little Potato in Jingyu's arms. The bruised lips on his small face were so scary. "Okay." Xiao Chun agreed deeply. He let Jingyu tie Little Potato to Jingyu's back. Xing Yi went down first, followed by Xiao Chun. Jingyu followed closely behind Xiao Chun. Lastly, Xing Shiwu stood at the top of the cliff to help Jingyu and Xiao Chun watch the vines. They couldn't afford to make any mistakes. Chapter 1568. Just like that, the group of people packed up and headed down the cliff one by one. These cliffs were so high that they couldn't see the bottom at all. All they could see was a white fog. Jingyu took a deep breath and listened to Xiao Chun's words as they moved down the cliff. With Xiao Chun and Xing Yi leading the way, the movement was very smooth. In the blink of an eye, they had already moved down a large distance. Throughout the entire process, Jingyu's heart was beating violently, and she was extremely nervous. Jingyu tilted her head slightly and vaguely saw the lush trees at the bottom of the cliff. Jingyu's face revealed a hint of joy, and the corners of her mouth slowly curled up. "I could see a little more. I have to work harder." Jingyu took a deep breath and said to herself in her heart, "Come down here." Xiao Chun's voice sounded. Every step that Jingyu took had been taken by Xiao Chun and was completely safe. Jingyu replied and silently moved her body down. Everything was going perfectly. However, just as Jingyu was about to take the next step, the clear sound of swords clashing could be heard from the top of the cliff. Jingyu and Xiao Chun's hearts suddenly tightened. Xiao Chun and Jingyu both looked up and suddenly heard a scream. Then they saw a corpse suddenly falling down the cliff. The speed was so fast that Jingyu's eyes were filled with shock and her body trembled violently. "Mistress, be careful." Just as Jingyu wanted to see what was going on, a panicked scream sounded. Jingyu's body trembled violently, and without thinking, she reached out to grab Xiao Chun's hand. The moment Jingyu reached out to grab Xiao Chun, the vine that Xiao Chun was holding on to was instantly cut off. Xiao Chun lost his support and almost fell down. Fortunately, Jingyu caught him in time. "Quick, step on the rock. There's a dagger to hold it in place." As soon as Jingyu finished speaking, Xiao Chun and Xing Yi both took out the daggers in their hands and fiercely stabbed them into the crevices of the rock. They stepped on the rock and steadied themselves. Jingyu and Xing Yi steadied themselves. In the blink of an eye, the vine that was originally holding on to Jingyu and Xing Yi was cut off, and they fell straight down the cliff. Jingyu and Xiao Chun saw this scene, and their hearts trembled. If they didn't react quickly, then something big was going to happen. "Someone knows of our whereabouts." Jingyu panted slightly, then gasped for breath before speaking. Xiao Chun's expression was terrifyingly cold. Jingyu and Xiao Chun exchanged glances and looked up. They heard the sound of swords and saw that the hanging vines around Jingyu and Xiao Chun had all been cut off. In almost an instant, only rocks were left around Jingyu and Xiao Chun. The sound of swords and sabers also disappeared as the vines were cut off. Jingyu, Xiao Chun, and Xing Yi froze on the spot and didn't dare to move until they heard 15th Xing's call from above. "Master, madam, are you all right?" Xiao Chun, Jingyu, and Xing Yi were already quite a distance away from the top of the cliff. In addition, the protruding rock blocked their view, so Jingyu and the rest couldn't see the situation above. Chapter 1569. "We're fine," Xiao Chun said. "Master is from the poison sect. They cut off all the vines and ran away. There's no rope here now." 15th Xing continued. Xiao Chun frowned deeply at 15th Xing's words. He turned to Jingyu and said, "Even with 15th Xing's Qinggong, it'll take more than a day to go up and down the mountain. It's impossible for us to wait here in this position." "Yes." Jingyu looked up at the distance above and then down at the distance below. The faintly discernible forest in the white fog made Jing Yu's expression changed slightly. Were they going to give up halfway? No, definitely not. Jing Yu's eyes were filled with unwillingness. She turned her head slightly and saw the protruding rock. She sighed deeply and said, "Let's move over." Okay. Xiao Chun gestured to Xing Yi and then followed Jing Yu bit by bit towards the protruding rock. The more they moved over, the more they saw what the protruding rock was. It looked like a flat platform. Jing Yu's eyes were tinged with joy when she saw the flat platform. They moved faster and finally climbed up the rock with some effort. However, the rock was too small and could only accommodate one person. Xiao Chun and Xing Yi had to continue hanging. What do we do now? Jing Yi took a deep breath and pursed her lips tightly. She raised her hand to untie the child on her back and prepared to tie the child to the front. However, just as Jing Yu carefully untied the child, she saw Little Potato's mouth turn even darker and his eyes rolled back. His fingers even showed signs of twitching. Jing Yu's heart trembled violently. "Little Potato, are you trying to scare Mother?" As Jing Yu spoke, she saw fresh blood flowing from Little Potato's nose. The moment she saw the blood, Jing Yu's nerves collapsed. "Little Potato, don't scare Mother." Xiao Chun, what do we do?" Jing Yu's eyes were filled with panic and hot tears fell from Jing Yu's eyes. Xiao Chen's eyes were also filled with panic. He wanted to do something, but just as Xiao Chun moved, the rock beneath his feet suddenly loosened and Xiao Chen's body slid down. "Xiao Chun." Jing Yu's heart contracted violently. She bent down and saw that Xing Yi had grabbed Xiao Chen's hand and was using great effort to hold onto the rock and stabilize his body. "Xiao Chun, are you all right?" Jing Yu asked in a panic. "I'm fine." Xiao Chun endured the pain from his wrist and calmly replied. Jing Yu held Little Potato in her arms and helped him wipe away the blood flowing from his nose. However, after a short while, Little Potato's nose started bleeding again. "Little Potato, don't leave Mother. I beg you." Jing Yu's eyes were filled with tears, and she sobbed uncontrollably in the middle of the cliff. Why is God treating me so unfairly?" Jing Yu's golden green eyes were filled with unwillingness and resentment. "Why do you have to take away the people I love again and again? Why is this so?" Jing Yu's heart was throbbing with pain. Her bone-piercing questions woke up the eagle deep in the mountains. A clear eagle cry sounded, and Jing Yu raised her head slightly. Chapter 1570. She looked at the eagle circling in the sky, then looked at the dying Little Potato in her arms. She turned her head to look at the faintly discernible forest under the white fog. Suddenly, she seemed to have thought of something and made up her mind. "Child, Mother has let you down." Jing Yu's eyes were filled with tears. She looked at the smiling Little Potato in her arms and saw how warm and determined he was. She suddenly raised her hand and cut off a corner of her clothes. She cut her finger and wrote a letter in blood on the corner of her clothes. "I, Jing Yu, will repay you with my life in the future by saving my son's life." She stuffed the letter written in blood into Little Potato's swaddling clothes. Jing Yu raised her head to look at the eagle circling in the sky. Her golden green eyes flashed slightly. She waved at the eagle and said, "Come here." Xiao Chun and Xing Yi saw Jing Yu's actions, and their eyes were filled with shock. Under the gaze of Xiao Chun and Xing Yi, the eagle stopped in front of Jing Yu and flapped its wings fiercely. Jing Yu wrapped Little Potato up properly and kissed his cheek deeply. She raised her head to look at the eagle and moved aside. She saw with her own eyes that the eagle soared into the sky and suddenly swooped down towards Little Potato. It reached out its sharp claws and grabbed the bundle that Little Potato was wrapped in. It let out a sharp cry and flew into the distance. In a few moments, it disappeared from Jing Yu's sight. However, Jing Yu looked in the direction that the eagle flew in and had no intention of looking back. Her golden green eyes were filled with tears. "You are," Xiao Chun called out softly. "Let's go up." Jing Yu took a deep breath and turned to look at Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun's expression changed when he heard Jing Yu's words. He looked at Jing Yu's determined expression and slowly nodded his head in agreement. He strenuously stabbed the dagger in his hand into a crack in the rock and climbed up with difficulty. Master, I'll release some vines for you. Hearing 15th interrogation officer's call from above, Jingyu steadied herself and raised her head to listen to the commotion above. When she saw the vines that were flung down from the cliff, a faint look of surprise appeared in her eyes. Jingyu, Xiao Chun, and Xing climbed up the vines. The three of them were almost completely drained of their strength. After climbing to the top of the cliff, they were completely drained of energy and collapsed to the ground. Jingyu couldn't bear the thrill. She took a deep breath and turned to look down the cliff. Xiao Chun shifted his body and reached out to hug Jingyu tightly. His injured hand trembled slightly, but he hugged Jingyu with great strength. Jingyu buried her head in Xiao Chun's embrace and sobbed silently. However, her scalding tears soaked Xiao Chun's clothes, and he could clearly feel the scalding tears burning his skin. Jingyu didn't say a word and just hugged Xiao Chun tightly for a long time. Finally, she slowly let go of him, her red and swollen eyes filled with worry. There was a long silence at the top of the cliff. 15th interrogation officer, are those people from the poison sect? Jingyu turned to look and saw the people 15th interrogation officer had taken down. She frowned deeply and turned to ask 15th interrogation officer. Chapter 1571. It's the poison sect. Interrogation Officer 1 had already bandaged the wounds on Interrogation Officer 15's body. It was just a simple bandage, but looking at the wounds on Interrogation Officer 15's body, one could clearly tell that an intense battle had occurred on the cliff top. These people from the poison sect seemed to have followed us all the way here. Their goal is to cut off the vines and kill Master and Madam. 15th Xing gritted his teeth and reached out to put on his clothes as he spoke. The poison sect. Jingyu's expression gradually darkened. She turned to look at the forest in the distance and said, Xiao Chun, we need to get in touch with Qingge and Little Potato. Jingyu suddenly felt like something was stuck in her throat. We must find Little Potato. I want to see him safe and sound. Jingyu stared fixedly at Xiao Chun. All right. Xiao Chun nodded slowly at Jingyu's words. Jingyu pursed her lips and turned to Xing and 15th Xing. Let's go down the mountain. I want you to find out where the poison sect is. I want to settle this debt with them personally. Yes. Interrogation Officer 1 and Interrogation Officer 15 straightened their bodies abruptly and bowed in response. The poison sect was a malignant tumor in Jingyu's heart. She thought that after dealing with Nailing Yu and threatening Yin Jing, Yin Tian would learn to be smarter and wouldn't easily provoke her. She hadn't expected the poison sect to be so eager to seek their own deaths. It looked like the destruction of the Holy Family hadn't shocked these hidden clans enough. Why were they so eager to court death? Jingyu, Xiao Chun, and the rest descended the cliff. Jingyu's mind was preoccupied the entire time, while Xiao Chun didn't relax his grip on Jingyu's hand. After descending the mountain, Jingyu, Xiao Chun, and the rest settled down in a small town at the foot of the mountain. After personally watching Xing release the carrier pigeon, the rest of the time was to wait for news. Ever since descending the cliff, Jingyu often sat in front of the window in a daze or walked step by step through the forest. She knew that this was useless, but Jingyu felt like this was the only way to comfort her heart. Miracle Physician Valley was sealed off. If Qingge hadn't taken the initiative to contact Xiao Chun and Jingyu, Xiao Chun and the rest wouldn't have been able to contact Qingge at all. While waiting for news, Jingyu didn't wait a single day for Qingge to appear. However, there was still no news from Qingge. Xiao Chun couldn't bear to watch Jingyu's actions any longer and forcefully knocked her out. Only then did Jingyu sleep peacefully. She slept for an entire day and night. As if unwilling to wake up, Xiao Chun stayed by Jingyu's bedside until Jingyu opened her eyes. Xiao Chun, our child is still alive. This was the first sentence that Jingyu said to Xiao Chun when she opened her eyes. I know, our child must be alive. Xiao Chun's handsome face was filled with fatigue. His smooth chin was covered in stubble, but his dark eyes were still as clear as ever. His reply to Jingyu's words was filled with determination. Jingyu looked at Xiao Chun with bright eyes. Xiao Chun didn't ask anything, and Jingyu didn't say anything either. The The two of them seemed to have a tacit understanding. They didn't say anything, but at the same time, they seemed to have said everything. Chapter 1572. Chinga never showed up, but he did get another piece of news. What did you just say? In the inn, Jingyu looked at Interrogation Officer 1 with a slightly ugly expression and said, Nailin Yu was rescued by someone? When did this happen? Jingyu pursed her lips as she looked at Xing Yi. Half a month ago. Xing Yi pursed his lips as he replied. I understand. When Jingyu heard Xing Yi's words, she slowly furrowed her brows. Her silent face looked like she was thinking about something. After a while, she turned back to look at Xing Yi without any expression. How are things coming along with the things I asked you to do? Jingyu narrowed her eyes. We're preparing according to Madam's instructions. Interrogation Officer 1 slowly lowered his head and said, Madam truly has a divine foresight. After releasing the news of Nailin Yu, there really were people who came to rescue her. Our people also stopped them for a bit. Jingyu laughed coldly. This Nailin Yu does have some status in the poison sect. It looks like I was right. Jingyu's eyes were filled with ice as she said, Now is the time to wait for news. I really want to see just where the poison sect is hiding. Jingyu's words were filled with thick ice. Before, Jingyu had already thought of investigating the poison sect's background. After thinking it over, she could only come up with one method, and that was to use Nailin Yu as a guide. This Nailin Yu really didn't disappoint Jingyu. Jingyu's lips curled into a faint smile as she thought about it. Finally, there was something she wanted to think about. I wasn't planning on making a move against the poison sect so soon, but I didn't expect Yin Tian to be so impatient to court death. Jingyu leaned back and said, Keep following Nailin Yu and find out where the poison sect is. We've already received news. Interrogation Officer 1 frowned slightly and said, Nailin Yu is heading in the direction of Northern Shepherd. If this subordinate's guess is correct, the poison sect must be within Northern Shepherd's borders. Interrogation Officer 1 pursed his lips as he looked at Jingyu. Northern Pastoral? Jingyu frowned. Chinga has yet to come out from the Godly Medical Valley. It's not a good idea for us to wait here. Xiao Chun, who was sitting at the side, frowned slightly. There was a hint of worry in his eyes as he said, As for Little Potato, I understand. Jingyu took a deep breath and rose to her feet. Dressed in black, she stood by the window and looked out at the distant mountain forest. We'll go to the Northern Pastoral. This time, the poison sect dared to make a move against Jingyu's son. They must be prepared to pay the price. Jingyu's eyes were filled with ice as she spoke. The glint in her golden-green eyes was frightening. All right, Xiaoqun stood up as well and stood next to Jingyu. He looked out at the scenery and said, I'll leave some people here to keep watch and look for our son. If there's any news, they'll inform us. Xiaoqun's pitch-black eyes were filled with darkness as he looked at Jingyu. Jingyu turned to look at Xiaoqun and said, Do you blame me for leaving my son to Goshawk? What nonsense are you spouting? When Xiaoqun heard Jingyu's words, his eyes filled with tenderness. He reached out to stroke Jingyu's head and said, I was too careless. Otherwise, I wouldn't have given those evildoers the chance to take advantage of me. Chapter 1573. Xiaoqun's eyes were filled with self-blame as he spoke. Jingyu sighed deeply and reached out to hug Jingyu's waist. Have a good rest, okay? We'll set off for the Northern Pastoral tomorrow. Okay. Jingyu slowly lowered her head, turned around, and hugged Xiaoqun before slowly closing her eyes. Xing Yi had already tactfully retreated. He stood outside the door and sighed deeply before turning around to leave. There was still a long way to go from Cebu to the Northern Pastoral. Fortunately, the main road was already connected. If they walked directly on the main road and turned to the waterway, they would reach the Northern Pastoral territory. Jingyu and Xiaoqun traveled at their fastest speed along the way. Hellion Theo somehow found out about Jingyu and Xiaoqun. He also didn't know when foam watching came to the Northern Pastoral. Jingyu and Xiaoqun had just entered the Northern Pastoral environment when they were stopped by foam watching. What are you doing? It had only been a few months since she last saw foam watching, but she realized that the phone watching in front of her didn't look like the phone watching she knew at all. Jingyu looked at phone watching and silently swallowed her saliva. Her eyes were filled with surprise. The phone watching of the past was always dressed in flowery clothes and spoke and acted strangely. However, the phone watching now was incomparably normal. His hair, which was usually neatly combed, was casually draped down without a care. He was dressed in a blue robe. The robe was extremely large, and the belt was loosely tied. His face, which was often covered in rouge, now looked like a normal man. His sharp eyebrows and starry eyes made Jingyu's expression change slightly. She could not recognize that the person in front of her was phone watching. Jingyu and Xiao-Chun had just arrived at a small city in the northern pastoral when phone watching came knocking on their door. Jingyu looked at phone watching standing in front of her and frowned. She had no idea what was going on. What's wrong? It's only been a few months and you don't recognize this young master anymore? Phone watching looked at Jingyu and Xiao-Chun indifferently and asked, Phone watching, what happened to you? Jingyu silently swallowed her saliva and asked phone watching. Her eyes were filled with surprise as she looked at phone watching. Phone watching smiled helplessly when he saw the large number of gazes that were fixed on him. Phone watching ignored Jingyu's words and turned his gaze to Xiao-Chun. I heard that you're here for the poison sect? Yes, you've already heard. Compared to Jingyu's surprise, Xiao-Chun was much calmer. He felt incomparably close to phone watching when he saw him like this. He turned his head slightly and asked phone watching, Why are you here? Hellion Theo knows about the poison sect. Phone watching frowned slightly and said, I was just passing by and was about to go to the building. When I learned that you were here, I turned around and came over. When phone watching said this, Jingyu clearly felt that there was something different in his words. Jingyu looked at phone watching's lowered head and frowned as if she thought of something. Just as she was about to ask, Xiao-Chun reached out and pulled her back. Jingyu turned her head in confusion. Thank you, Xiao-Chun responded expressionlessly. Phone watching's expression didn't change as he responded indifferently and left. Chapter 1574. Jingyu watched as phone watching sat down on the other side of the corridor. He held a jug of wine in his hand and calmly drank from it. His pitch-black eyes seemed to contain countless stories, but they were so calm. What's going on? Jingyu's eyes were filled with curiosity as she watched phone watching's actions. She silently swallowed her saliva and turned to ask Xiao-Chun. Xiao-Chun was silent for a moment, then frowned and said, Who knows? If you don't know, why are you stopping me? Jingyu glared at Xiao-Chun and said, I was just about to ask. I think phone watching probably doesn't want to talk about it right now. Xiao-Chun frowned. After saying this indifferently, he turned his head again to look in phone watching's direction. Looking at phone watching's nonstop drinking, he frowned fiercely. Miss, it looks like you were hurt by love. Jingyu's eyes widened slightly, and there was a hint of confusion in her eyes as she spoke. Xiao-Chun's mouth twitched when he heard that, but he didn't say anything. Phone watching had indeed changed this time. No matter when, he always reeked of alcohol, but his mind was incomparably clear. Jing, you personally watched this man drink a few jugs of wine. After that, Jingyu told Xiao-Chun to ask phone watching about it. What she didn't expect was that phone watching could actually answer fluently. His words made Jingyu frown incomparably conflicted. Could it be that phone watching didn't have a sense of taste? Or was it the kind of physique that couldn't get drunk at all? Jingyu frowned in confusion as she watched phone watching talking to Xiao-Chun. From what phone watching said, I have to ask Hellion Theo about the poison sect. Jingyu leaned on the table and turned to ask Xiao-Chun. Yes. Xiao-Chun slowly nodded and said, Perhaps we can learn something from Hellion Theo that we don't know. Okay, then let's not delay any longer. Let's go find Hellion Theo quickly. Jingyu didn't say anything else and was about to drag Xiao-Chun away. Jingyu and Xiao-Chun were about to leave the next day. Phone watching was about to go outside the northern pastoral territory, while Jingyu and Xiao-Chun were about to go inside the northern pastoral territory. The two stood at the bottom of the inn and said goodbye. Hey, phone watching. When they were about to leave, Jingyu suddenly called out to phone watching who was about to leave. In my eyes, you've always been phone watching. Jingyu smiled and said this to phone watching. Then, she jumped onto the horse's back. Phone watching was stunned on the spot. The way he looked at Jingyu changed slightly. He was silent for a moment, as if he wanted to say something, but he didn't want to say anything. His lips curved into a faint smile as he watched Jingyu and Xiao Chen disappear into the distance. Jingyu and Xiao Chen headed for the northern pastoral's imperial city. However, they had only walked for half a day when they received a message from Hellion Theo. This is the location Hellion Theo gave us. In the wilderness, Xiao Chen and Jingyu were squatting on the ground. They looked down at the map spread out on the ground and frowned slightly. Xing Yi was holding the location Hellion Theo sent over. Hellion Theo is also here? Jingyu raised her eyebrows and asked in surprise. Yes. Xiao Chen nodded slightly. There was a hint of surprise in his eyes. When did Hellion Theo become so nosy? Chapter 1575. Let's not go to the Imperial City. We'll head down from here and head straight for the poison sect. Xiao Chen pointed at the location on the map with furrowed brows. Jingyu and the others nodded slowly, their eyes filled with determination. The poison sect really knows how to hide. They actually managed to find their way deep into the mountains and forests. If it wasn't for Nail and you leading the way, we really wouldn't have been able to find them. Jingyu's lips hooked up in a cold, emotionless smile. Xing Yi, did Nail and you take this path? Do you know who saved her? Jingyu turned to Xing Yi and asked. I'm certain she took this path, but I don't know who saved her. Xing Yi nodded slightly. Jingyu frowned and said, the next town is Linjiang County. Hellion Theo said he'd meet us there. Let's hurry. Jingyu stood up as she spoke. Xiao Chen also nodded in agreement. After Xing Yi tidied up the map on the ground, the group continued on their way. Linjiang County was a county near the west of the northern pastoral region. Jingyu and Xiao Chen were the first to arrive. The county wasn't very lively, but it wasn't deserted either. It seemed that there were many outsiders here. Jingyu and Xiao Chen's arrival didn't cause much of a stir in the county. The next day, Hellion Theo arrived as well. However, Hellion Theo didn't come alone. Big brother Xiao? Third brother Du, why are you all here? Jingyu asked with wide eyes as she welcomed Hellion Theo in. When she saw the group of people following Hellion Theo in, she asked in surprise. We heard that something happened to the boss, so we all came. Xiao Wensher looked at Jingyu with a smile and said, those who came with us are all our brothers. Since the boss is in trouble, we naturally have to help. Really? When Jingyu heard Xiao Wensher's words, she frowned helplessly. She didn't expect it to be so big. Boss, young master? Mao Yi's temper was still as impatient as ever. He had only said a few words before he started asking questions. Little Potato is currently in Miracle Physician Valley. Jingyu slowly sighed and said, the poison sect dared to make a move against Little Potato. This time, I'm here to find the poison sect. Jingyu slowly turned to look at the crowd. I accidentally found out about the poison sect's presence in Northern Shepherds half a year ago. Hellion Theo frowned slightly. Then he looked at Jingyu and said, I wasn't sure at first, but this time I'm almost certain. Jingyu nodded slowly and said, Nailin, you will personally lead the way. Once everyone is here, we'll set off immediately. Who else is there? Mao Yi asked curiously. Fourth brother Mao. You'll know when the time comes. Jingyu only smiled faintly when she heard the question. There wasn't a hint of emotion in her eyes. Speaking of which, Hellion Theo, why did you come personally? When everyone started talking, Jingyu turned to Hellion Theo and asked curiously. When Hellion Theo heard Jingyu's question, his expression stiffened. Perhaps he's here to find someone. Xiao Chen picked up his teacup, took a sip, and said calmly, Don't worry, it's not a big deal. Chapter 1576. Looking for someone? Who? Jingyu was slightly taken aback as she looked at Xiao Chen. When she saw Xiao Chen's expressionless face, Jingyu's gaze landed on Hellion Theo. Her eyes were filled with questions. I was just bored in the palace, so I came out for a walk. Hellion Theo spoke indifferently. His eyes lowered slightly, hiding the expression in his eyes. He turned his head away as if he didn't want to say anything. Jingyu looked at Hellion Theo's expression and felt even more conflicted. What the hell are these two people doing? Why does Jingyu feel a deep sense of strangeness? It's only been a few months since we last met. Why does Jingyu feel so conflicted? Xiao-chun, do you really not feel that something is wrong? Jingyu turned to Xiao-chun and asked. When she saw Xiao-chun's calm expression, she seemed to have thought of something. She stared at Xiao-chun and asked, "Do you know something? It's time to rest." Xiao-chun reached out and grabbed Jingyu's hand. His lips curled into a faint smile as he said, "Xiao Bai is rushing over with his men. He'll be here in a few days. Tomorrow, have Xing Yi scout ahead and find the exact location of the poison sect." All right. As soon as Xiao-chun finished speaking, Jingyu's thoughts really ran away. She frowned slightly and said, "No one noticed Xiao Bai's arrival, right? What's going on with the poison sect now?" "The poison sect doesn't know anything about this," Xiao-chun replied indifferently. "So what if they know? Does the poison sect have any leeway to resist?" When Jingyu heard Xiao-chun's words, her heart filled with iciness. Anger was brewing in the depths of her heart, and she tightly pursed her eyes. Every time she thought of the poison sect, she thought of all the things Ling Xian had done. She also thought of the helplessness she'd felt on that cliff. She'd personally sent her child off. Now, Little Potato's fate was unknown and his whereabouts were unknown. When she thought of this, Jingyu felt a sharp pain in her heart. She tightly pursed her lips and didn't say a word. "Xiao-chun, is there any news from Divine Physician Valley?" Jingyu turned to look at Xiao-chun. Xiao-chun slowly shook his head, a trace of worry flashing in his eyes. Jingyu looked at Xiao-chun, who was shaking his head as usual, and slowly relaxed her body. To Jingyu, perhaps no news was the best news right now. Jingyu slowly lowered her head and stared blankly at the table in front of her. Her golden-green eyes were unreadable. Countless days and nights passed. Jingyu's longing for her child deepened bit by bit. From time to time, she would stare blankly at Xiao-chun, Little Potato, and Little Potato's clothes. When Xiao-chun saw this scene, he felt powerless. Xing Yi. When it was deep into the night, Jingyu had already fallen asleep. However, Xiao-chun appeared outside the door. Xing Yi was standing beside Xiao-chun. He was wearing a pitch-black robe as he stood beside Xiao-chun. He tightly pursed his lips as he looked at Xiao-chun. When he heard Xiao-chun's voice, he respectfully acknowledged. Xiao-chun was wearing an inner robe as he stood in the corridor, indifferently looking at the pitch-black night in the distance. "You still haven't found him?" Xiao-chun's expression was very ugly. His pitch-black eyes were filled with coldness, and his words were somewhat gloomy. In reply, "Master, there's still no news of little young master." Xing Yi's face also paled as he lowered his head and replied. Chapter 1577. When Xiao-chun heard Xing Yi's report, his expression darkened even more. He furrowed his brows tightly and pursed his thin lips icily. "Have you searched all the places I told you to? What did Xing Yi's message say?" Xiao-chun fell silent for a moment, then tilted his head to stare at Xing Yi. His pitch-black eyes were incomparably cold under the moonlight. "Lord Qinggu said that no one in Miracle Physician Valley has seen the young master, nor has anyone cured the young master." Xing Yi's Adam's apple bobbed as he spoke. "Damn it." Xiao-chun's expression hardened. He furrowed his brows and said, "Continue searching. No matter what method you use, no matter how much effort you use, you must find the young master. This king wants to see him alive or dead." Xiao-chun's words were filled with determination. When Xing Yi heard Xiao-chun's words, his body trembled violently, and he lowered his head. "Then what about the madam?" Xing Yi furrowed his brows and asked tentatively. "Don't say anything for now." Xiao-chun sighed deeply and said, "This king doesn't want anything bad to happen at this juncture." "Yes," Xing Yi acknowledged respectfully. After Xiao-chun said a few more words, he turned and went back into the room. Jingyu was sleeping soundly on the bed in the room. She was completely oblivious to the conversation between Xiao Chun and Xing Yi. Early the next morning, Xing Yi led people into the forest to investigate the exact location of the poison sect. Jing Yu, Xiao Wenshi, and the others gathered to talk for a long time before they dispersed. Xiao Chun took Xing Shiwu outside to check on the situation outside. Jing Yu was suddenly free. She was seriously considering whether or not she should go outside for a walk. Just as she opened the door, she saw Hellion Theo sitting in the backyard, sullenly drinking wine. After such a long time, Hellion Theo's beautiful face didn't lose any points. Jing Yu stood on the balcony and looked around before walking down to Hellion Theo's side. Is something the matter? Hellion Theo looked up at Jing Yu and asked, I should be the one asking you that. Jing Yu sat down across from Hellion Theo and looked at Hellion Theo's beautiful face. She smiled faintly and said, From the moment we met, you looked like you had a lot on your mind. What do you want to do? Hellion Theo fell silent when he heard Jing Yu's words. However, he didn't say anything. What? You don't want to talk about it? Jing Yu raised her brows at Hellion Theo and said, We ran into phone matching before we met up with you. When Jing Yu's words fell, the expression in Hellion Xiu's eyes immediately changed. Even the tone of his question changed. When Jing Yu saw Hellion Xiu's expression, the corners of her mouth twitched violently. She guessed right. There really was something wrong with these two. Why are you in such a hurry? Jing Yu looked at Hellion Theo in amusement and said, Don't tell me. You came out this time to look for phone matching. How is that possible? Hellion Theo's expression changed instantly. He turned his head and said with hatred, I'm just happy that he's finally gone. Hellion Theo's expression stiffened. Chapter 1578. Jing Yu looked at Hellion Theo's face curiously. After hearing his words, she suddenly laughed out loud and said, I was just joking. Why are you so nervous? Hellion Xiu looked at the faint smile in Jing Yu's eyes and suddenly had a feeling that he had been fooled. He furrowed his brows tightly and decided not to say anything. What? Jing Yu looked at Hellion Theo's expression and said, Did I hit the nail on the head? Jing Yu. Hellion Theo was annoyed by Jing Yu's words. He was afraid that he would say something he shouldn't, so he lowered his head and looked at Jing Yu. His dark eyes were filled with exhaustion. Okay, I got it. Jing Yu stretched lazily and said, I know you're annoyed by phone matching, but the strange thing is when I saw phone matching this time, why did he seem to have changed? Did you see? Phone matching actually wore his clothes properly and didn't speak in a weird tone. You didn't see? I was shocked when I saw phone matching. Jing Yu said curiously. Oh. Hellion Theo didn't seem to care, but in a place where Jing Yu couldn't see, his hands on his legs unconsciously clenched a little. Speaking of which, it's strange. Do you think phone matching suffered some kind of shock? Jing Yu said curiously. Then, as if she thought of something, she turned to Hellion Theo and said, Oh right, I heard that phone matching followed you to the Northern Pastoral Palace. What happened to you guys after that? Tell me quickly, I'm curious. Jing Yu looked at Hellion Theo excitedly and said, Phone matching kept pestering Xiao Chun, and now he's pestering you. Do you have anything to say? Hellion Theo's expression changed slightly. Then he turned to look at Jing Yu and asked, Last time, the situation where phone matching and I got to know each other, you were the one who planned it, right? Hellion Theo wasn't a fool. How could he not know such simple logic? He frowned slightly and looked at Jing Yu. When Jing Yu heard Hellion Xiu's words, the expression on her face suddenly became very interesting. She had accidentally sold herself out. Well, I think I'm a little hungry. Are you hungry? I'm going to find something to eat. Jing Yu said this quietly and didn't care about Hellion Theo's reaction. She stood up decisively and slipped away. Hellion Theo looked at Jing Yu's figure running away and shook his head helplessly. He looked at the wine glass on the table and lowered his head slightly. He reached out to pick it up and drank it in one gulp. The spicy wine slid down Hellion Theo's throat and made Hellion Theo feel a faint bitterness on his tongue. He didn't know if it was a chain reaction, but the bitterness in the air was so obvious that it made the bitterness in his heart even more difficult to ignore. When Xiao Chun returned, Hellion Theo was no longer sitting in his original seat. Jingyu had also returned to her room. In order to stop her imagination from running wild, Jingyu asked Xiao Chun to find a lot of storybooks for her to read to pass the time. Xiao Chun was really puzzled by Jingyu's hobby. Jingyu didn't read any books and only read storybooks. If she was young, it would be fine, but Jingyu was already a mother. Why did she still like storybooks so much? Chapter 1579. Xiao Chun turned his head slightly and saw Jingyu propping her chin up as she watched intently. Her lips were curled up as if she'd seen something funny. Xiao Chun couldn't help but laugh when he saw Jingyu's expression. Over the next few days, Jingyu, Xiao Chun, and Xiao Wenshi took turns searching for the poison sect's hiding place. But after searching the forest several times, they still couldn't find any traces of the poison sect. This situation made Jingyu anxious. There was no news from Miracle Physician Valley either. Fortunately, just as Jingyu was about to lose her patience, Xiao Bai and Jinglang finally arrived with their men. Their arrival was so grand that it was the perfect time for Xiao Bai and Jinglang to arrive. Xing Yi had finally found traces of the poison sect. In the depths of the forest, Xing Yi found a death trap filled with poisons. The poison sect was hidden behind this death trap inside this cave. When the news reached them, Xiao Bai and Jinglang had just arrived at the county town to meet up with Jingyu. Mother, father, it hadn't been long since they last met, but Jingyu's heart trembled violently when she saw Xiao Bai. She reached out and pulled Xiao Bai into her arms. As she hugged Xiao Bai, she thought of Little Potato, whose whereabouts were still unknown. Her eyes filled with tears. You are. Jinglang's eyes were filled with faint heartache as he hurried over to Jingyu. From the looks of the two, it was obvious that they knew about Little Potato. The way Jinglang looked at Jingyu made Jingyu's eyes turn misty. Big brother. Jingyu pursed her lips and called out. It's fine now. Big brother's here. Jinglang hugged Jingyu as he spoke deeply. What's the current situation? After everyone returned to their rooms, they finally got down to business. According to Xing Yi's report, we've found the poison sect's location, but there's a very serious problem. Xiao Chun slowly furrowed his brows and said, Xiao Bai, news of your arrival was leaked. Perhaps the poison sect already knew about our movements. Xiao Chun slowly said, the current situation is that the poison sect has completely hidden themselves. We've found the residence they're living in, but we don't dare to go in. The only thing we can be sure of is that there's absolutely no one inside. Then where are the poison sect members hiding? Jingyu's brows furrowed as she asked. These people from the poison sect are all hiding in the cave. If I'm not wrong, there must be a completely different world inside the cave. Xiao Chun frowned slightly as he spoke with a calm look in his eyes. What should we do now? Jinglang turned to look at Jingyu and Xiao Chun. The poison sect is very cunning. They hid in a cave as soon as they learned of our arrival. Although there's no one in the rooms, we still don't dare to casually barge in. What if there's some kind of trap or poison in there? What should we do then? Hellion Theo also spoke calmly. That's exactly what I'm worried about. Xiao Chen's expression also changed as he spoke. Why is the poison sect hiding in a cave? Jingyu's brows furrowed tightly as she spoke. Chapter 1580. The cave is a cut-off mountain. The poison sect's people have already moved in, but it's still a turtle shell that's hard to open. When Xiao Chun heard Jingyu's words, he sneered without a care in the world. We haven't found the entrance to the cave yet. The way I see it, we won't be able to get in even if we find it. The poison sect is most adept at silently poisoning people. If we want to deal with the poison sect, we'll have to think of another way. He Lian furrowed his brows tightly as he spoke. Poison. Jingyu frowned impatiently when she heard this. Poisoning was a silent thing. It made Jingyu grit her teeth in hatred. Is there a way to do it? Jingyu's brows furrowed slightly as she said, could it be that we'll have to invite the people from Divine Physician Valley to deal with the poison sect? Otherwise, no one will be able to make a single move. Jingyu's eyes were filled with anger as she spoke. When the group heard Jing Yu's words, they all furrowed their brows and didn't say a word. Let's wait for a moment. The school bus seemed a little annoyed as he furrowed his brows. I'll go take a look myself tomorrow. Jing Yu took a deep breath, then turned to leave. These complicated matters really made Jing Yu uncomfortable. That's why she was so impatient. She took a deep breath as if she didn't want to say anything else. She stood by the corridor in a daze. Xiao Chun, Jing Lang, and Helly and Theo talked for a while in the room before they all dispersed. Xiao Chun saw Jing Yu standing in the corridor and furrowed his brows. He walked over to Jing Yu and stood by her side. His brows curved slightly as he looked at Jing Yu and said, "Everything will be resolved. Don't worry too much." Jing Yu didn't say anything after hearing Xiao Chen's words. She just lowered her head and didn't say a word. Mother! Xiao Chun was a little worried when he saw Jing Yu's appearance. Now that he heard Xiao Bai's call, he let out a sigh of relief. He saw that Jing Yu had finally turned around and was talking to Xiao Bai intimately. When Xiao Chun saw this scene, he let out a sigh of relief. Seeing that Jing Yu was accompanied by Xiao Bai, he turned around and left. Mother, are you unhappy? Xiao Bai looked at Jing Yu with a pair of bright black eyes and asked. I didn't. Jing Yu shook her head at Xiao Bai and said, Did you have a good day? Jing Yu looked at Xiao Bai with a smile and asked. Xiao Bai was very obedient and told Jing Yu everything he encountered, whether it was interesting or not. Jing Yu also patiently listened to Xiao Bai's words. She didn't show the slightest bit of impatience, and from time to time, she would interject a few words, as if it was a very happy thing to hear Xiao Bai talk to her so happily. Mother, little brother will be fine, Xiao Bai said as he reached out and pulled Jing Yu's sleeve. In. Xiao Bai was so smart. How could he not know why Jing Yu was unhappy? He was obediently staying by her side to please Jing Yu and make Jing Yu happy. Xiao Bai has grown up and is sensible. Jing Yu seemed to be very gratified. She reached out and patted Xiao Bai's head, her eyes full of joy. Chapter 1581. The matter of the poison sect had to be resolved quickly. Early the next morning, Jing Yu changed into a set of clothes that made it easier for her to walk. She grabbed a dagger and some other items and followed Xing, Yi, and Xiao Chen out of the house. You guys stay here for now. Jing Yu turned to Xiao Bai and Jing Lang. We're just going to scout the area. You guys wait here for news. If there's any concrete news, someone will come and inform you. After Jing Yu finished speaking to Jing Lang, Helly and Xiao, and the others, she turned and left. This forest was really big, but it was just an ordinary forest. Compared to the Roman forest, this forest really wasn't big enough. Still, it was more than enough to hide the poison sect in the depths of this ancient forest. Jing Yu walked through the forest and looked at the terrain and trees. She sighed in her heart. The poison sect was really good at disguising themselves. If it wasn't for Nail and Yu leading the way, Jing Yu would never have been able to find this place. Jing Yu followed in Xing Yi's footsteps. After walking for several hours, they finally arrived at the legendary wasteland. From a distance, they could see the withered trees. It was obvious that this land had been soaked in poison all year round. Master, madam, the poison sect's residence is up ahead. There's a large mountain behind this area, and the poison sect's members are inside, Xing Yi slowly said as he pointed at the barren houses in front of them. It looks like the poison sect's members really did plan this a long time ago. Jing Yu frowned deeply as her golden-green eyes flashed with an icy light. Jing Yu and Xiao Chen's group were currently standing in the middle of this forest. However, the area in front of them made Jing Yu afraid to take even half a step forward. How could they dare to go forward when they saw the state of the vegetation? It's obvious that the poison sect's members had received the news long ago. That's why they retreated ahead of time, Jing Yu said with a frown. Yeah, that's what I guessed as well. Xiao Chan furrowed his brows and said, However, we've come here in such a secretive manner. Who would have the ability to notify the poison sect so quickly? And this nailing you, what do you mean? When Jing Yu heard Xiao Chen's words, she furrowed her brows and said, Could this be a trap set up by the poison sect, and they're just waiting for us to walk right into their trap? It's not impossible. Xiao Qin's pitch-black eyes slowly furrowed as he said, "Since you could make Nailin you pretend to be rescued, why can't the poison sect beat you at your own game? Using Nailin you as bait to lure us here and then catch us all in one fell swoop?" When Jingyu heard Xiao Qin's words, she slowly furrowed her brows as well. Now that she thought about it, it wasn't impossible. If that was really the case, wouldn't Jingyu have fallen into someone else's trap if she rashly attacked? "What do you think we should do?" Jingyu turned to look at Xiao Chun. "Perhaps we should scout the path first." Xiao Chun stood with his hands behind his back. He narrowed his eyes as he looked at the bleak houses in the forest. It wasn't hard to see that this place must have been very prosperous before. If it wasn't for that, it wouldn't have been dressed like this. Jingyu didn't know what Xiao Chun wanted to do, but she vaguely understood Xiao Chen's intentions. The day's scouting came to an end. Jingyu and Xiao Chun walked as they looked around. By the time they returned to the inn, the sun was already setting in the west. Chapter 1582. How did the search go? Helian Theo, Jing Lang, and the others all asked when they heard the news of Jingyu's return. The situation might not be as simple as we thought. Jingyu calmly looked at the crowd and said, "The poison sect's people retreated in a timely manner. It's obvious that they knew we were coming. Perhaps there's something else going on here. Perhaps someone secretly delivered a letter." After Jingyu finished speaking, Xiao Chun calmly continued. Everyone's faces instantly turned strange. Could it be that someone had delivered a letter to them? Jingyu's gaze slid past Jing Lang and Xiao Bai's faces, then to Xiao Wenshi and the others before landing on Helian Theo's face. Although she hadn't said anything yet, Helian Theo could feel everyone's eyes on him. What should I say? Helian Theo's heart trembled slightly. Then, he smiled carelessly and shrugged at Jingyu. His clear eyes seemed to have lost all emotion. "I don't like being toyed with." Jingyu's eyes hardened, as if she didn't want to say anything else. "Xiao Bai, take some people with you tomorrow to discuss the route." Xiao Chun tilted his head slightly to look at Xiao Bai. Xiao Bai nodded obediently. Jingyu didn't say anything else and turned to leave. Xiao Chun also followed Jingyu. Everyone also bid their farewells and dispersed. Helian Xiao stood in the same place, the strength in his hands slightly tightening. Those flickering eyes seemed to hide some inside information that could not be revealed to outsiders. Helian Xiao stood silently for a while, then turned around and left. For the past 2 days, Xiao Chun had sent people to scout the route, but the results didn't seem to be satisfactory. Xiao Chun and Xing Yi also joined them. Jingyu originally wanted to go as well, but because she didn't sleep well last night, she woke up early in the morning to find that Xiao Chun and Xing Yi had already left. Jingyu naturally couldn't be bothered to go alone. Jingyu had nothing to do, so she leaned against the window and stared blankly at the sky outside. She seemed to be thinking about something uneasy, but also seemed to be staring blankly at the sky. Just as Jingyu was feeling bored, she suddenly heard the sound of wings flapping. Jingyu curiously turned to see a carrier pigeon perched by the corridor. Jingyu frowned, then opened the door and walked out. "Stop!" Just as she opened the door, she saw 15th Interrogation Officer rush out and grab the carrier pigeon. Just as he was about to remove the item from a carrier pigeon, Jingyu suddenly spoke up and stopped 15th Interrogation Officer. Madam." 15th Interrogation Officer's eyes narrowed when he saw Jingyu, his eyes filled with panic. Jingyu looked at 15th Interrogation Officer's reaction and frowned strangely. "Why are you carrying this carrier pigeon? Hurry up and give it to me." Jingyu looked at 15th Interrogation Officer and said, "Madam, this carrier pigeon is Master's." 15th Interrogation Officer said quietly with a sullen face. After saying this, he wished he could slap himself. "Huh!" Jingyu instantly laughed when she heard this. She looked at 15th Interrogation Officer and said in amusement, "What do you mean it's Xiao Chen's? Isn't what Xiao Chen's mine? Or is Xiao Chen hiding something from me?" Chapter 1583. Jingyu's golden-green eyes slowly turned to look at 15th Xing. When she saw 15th Xing's expression change after hearing her words, her heart trembled violently. Xiao Chan was really hiding something from her. 15th Xing. Jingyu's expression instantly turned ugly. She suddenly scolded angrily. "Bring the thing over." But madam," 15th Xing screamed in his heart. At this time, Master and Xing Yi weren't here. They were all in the forest. What should he do now? "You got guts. How dare you go against my words?" Anger appeared on Jingyu's face. Her eyes were cold as she stared fixedly at the pigeon in 15th Xing's arms, as if she had thought of something. At this time, what else could Xiao Chan be hiding from her? Jingyu's heart turned cold inch by inch. 15th Xing, bring the thing over. Although Jingyu's voice was loud, it was obvious that her voice was trembling. "Madam," 15th Xing was in a difficult position. He was thinking of running away. Master had strongly instructed him not to let Madam know. Who knew that this pigeon would fly here? He was just half a beat slower to catch the pigeon, but now things had turned out this way. What should he do? Jingyu saw that 15th Xing didn't listen to her at all. She was anxious and angry. She didn't say anything else and directly grabbed at 15th Xing. 15th Xing was shocked and quickly retreated. This was his wife. How could a small secret guard like him dare to touch Jingyu? He could only dodge left and right. Jingyu didn't care what was going on with 15th Xing. She grabbed at him mercilessly. 15th Xing wanted to resist, but he was afraid of offending Jingyu. In the end, he seemed to have made up his mind about something and reached out to release the pigeon. Seeing the carrier pigeon fly away, Jingyu's expression became slightly anxious. Under 15th Xing's fearful gaze, Jingyu actually stepped on the railing and grabbed the carrier pigeon from behind without a second thought. "Madam!" 15th Xing's face was full of shock. Jingyu didn't know Qingong. She just jumped out and caught the pigeon. Then her body fell from the sky. Hellion Theo happened to step into the courtyard and saw this frightening scene. Without any hesitation, he suddenly raised his chi and spun up, catching the falling Jingyu and landing safely on the ground. 15th Xing was so frightened by this scene that he broke out in a cold sweat. He didn't expect Jingyu to be so unyielding. She jumped out without saying anything, and he couldn't stop her. If anything happened to Jingyu, even if 15th Xing had 15 heads, it wouldn't be enough for him to chop off. "Madam, are you okay?" 15th Xing's eyes were full of shock as he looked at Jingyu and asked. "I'm fine." Jingyu was also scared. Even though this floor wasn't high, it was still very painful to fall. "Jingyu, do you want to die?" The moment Hellion Xiu let go of Jingyu, he let loose a torrent of abuse. His good-looking face was unbelievably gloomy. Anyone who saw the scene just now would be scared out of their wits. Ahem. Jingyu smiled awkwardly at Hellion Theo. After thanking him with a grin, she couldn't wait to remove the letter tied to the pigeon's leg. Hellion Theo finally understood why Jingyu suddenly jumped off the building. Chapter 1584. So, it was just to catch a carrier pigeon. Hellion Theo became even angrier at this thought. He frowned slightly as he watched Jingyu unfold the note. What could make Jingyu so desperate? Beside him, Xing Shiwu's heart tightened when he saw Jingyu's actions. His body stiffened slightly as he prepared to deal with any sudden situation. Jingyu's face darkened bit by bit after she read the contents of the note. She stiffened her body as she read the note. Hellion Theo frowned slightly. He didn't know what Jingyu had read. "What's wrong?" Hellion Theo asked with a slight frown. Jingyu didn't say anything. She stood there without moving. Then, under Hellion Theo's puzzled gaze, she slowly put away the note in her hand. Her golden-green eyes looked calmly at Xing Shiwu. Xing Shiwu noticed Jingyu's gaze, and his heart skipped a beat. Looking at Jingyu's calm expression, he instantly knew that something big was about to happen. "When did you find out about this news?" Jingyu's expression was incomparably calm. Her voice and tone were also very normal. There didn't seem to be anything out of the ordinary. But for some reason, seeing Jingyu like this, Xing Shiwu's heart almost jumped out of his chest. It was a few days ago before Xiao by Gongzi arrived. Xing Shiwu knew that he couldn't hide this any longer. He swallowed silently and said. After Jing Yu heard 15 Xing's words, she purposely kept silent for a moment. The note in her hand was twisted out of shape by Jing Yu's grip. 15 Xing looked at this scene with fear and trepidation. Helian Xiao, who was listening at the side, was completely confused and had no idea what was going on. What's going on? Helian Theo asked curiously. But what answered Helian Theo was a deathly silence. No one spoke. Helian Theo looked at Jing Yu standing there with her head slightly lowered. It seemed like he couldn't see Jing Yu's expression clearly, but he seemed to be able to feel the deep murderous intent emanating from Jing Yu's body. Helian Theo's expression changed instantly. He looked at Jing Yu in fear, suddenly feeling that the air around them had become thin and uncomfortable. In this deathly silence, Jing Yu suddenly raised her head. Jing Yu's golden-green eyes were brewing an unstoppable storm. Those eyes were so terrifying. Madam! Madam! Before 15 Xing could recover from the murderous aura in Jing Yu's eyes, he saw Jing Yu striding out of the room. He immediately called out, "What are you doing?" Jing Yu. Helian Theo's eyes flashed with shock when he saw Jing Yu's murderous look. He quickly chased after her and saw Jing Yu get on the back of a horse without a word. The woman in black sitting on the horse's back was so shocking. "Come with me. Today, I'm going to destroy the poison sect and bury them with my son." Jing Yu practically squeezed these words out through gritted teeth. Then, ignoring Helian Theo and Xing Shiwu's expressions, she abruptly pulled the reins of her horse and galloped away. Helian Theo and Xing Shiwu both stood in their spots in shock as they watched Jing Yu's figure grow further and further away. When they recalled the savagery in Jing Yu's golden-green eyes, they both shuddered. Chapter 1585. Something big is about to happen. After 15th Xing said this sentence in a panic, he rushed to a nearby horse and climbed onto it, chasing after Jing Yu. Helian Theo finally reacted and shook his body violently. After listening to Jing Yu's words, Helian Theo roughly knew why Jing Yu went berserk. He also vaguely guessed what Jing Yu saw on the note. Jing Yu and Xiao Qin's child must have met with an accident. Didn't they say that the child was being treated in Miracle Physician Valley? Could it be that he's dead? Helian Theo shook his body violently at this thought. If the child was really dead, then what would happen next would be another shock. Regardless of whether it was Jing Yu or Xiao Chun, if something happened to either of them, the other would be the only one who would go berserk. However, if something happened to their child, then it would be a collective rampage. Helian Theo pondered for a moment. It was probably impossible to stop Jing Yu now. He could only wait and see what Jing Yu wanted to do. No matter what, he could not implicate innocent people. Helian Theo was silent for a moment. Then he turned around and returned to the inn. He called everyone out and led a large group of people into the forest. The originally peaceful town was completely chaotic. When Jing Yu and Xiao Chen arrived, they attracted a lot of attention. However, Jing Yu and Xiao Chun did not do anything else after they arrived. The people in the town were just a little cautious and did not think much of it. They only kept a close eye on Jing Yu and Xiao Chen's movements. However, they soon realized that Jing Yu and Xiao Chen's group were only running into the forest. Many people warned them that the forest was not clean, but Jing Yu and Xiao Chun did not care at all. Since he didn't listen to his kind advice, he naturally wouldn't go and ask for a rebuff. There were also some people in this town. They were probably afraid that something big would happen, so they brought their families and moved away after a few days. They probably wanted to wait for the storm to blow over before coming back. But today, Jing Yu and Xiao Chun, who had originally calmed down, finally made a move, and it was such a big move. When the peddlers on the street saw Helian Xiu's team, they all retreated back to their houses to avoid them. When they saw with their own eyes that Helian Theo led so many people and rushed into the forest like a swarm of bees, that aggressive and murderous look, everyone widened their eyes in shock. What's going on? When the children who were playing outside saw this scene, they also widened their eyes in curiosity and asked. The parents of the children did not think twice and locked their children in the house, closing all the doors and windows. They watched in horror as the group disappeared into the distance, but still did not dare to open the door. In such a chaotic world, the slightest carelessness would be inviting trouble to oneself. Jingyu rushed into the forest like the wind, with Jingyu in hot pursuit. However, it was impossible for him to catch up to her. In the blink of an eye, Jingyu's figure disappeared outside the forest. At this moment, Xiao Chun, Jing Lang, and the rest were clearing the weeds on the side, as if they were looking for a way to proceed with the next step. As they were talking, they heard the sound of horse hooves outside the forest and immediately frowned. Chapter 1586. Why would someone come to this place at this time of the day? Xiao Chun and Jing Lang both stood up and looked into the distance. They immediately saw Jingyu rushing over on her horse. Her beautiful face was filled with boundless murderous intent, and her golden green eyes were filled with terrifying emotions. When Xiao Chun saw Jingyu's expression from afar, his heart suddenly trembled violently. It was as if he had thought of something terrifying. His pupils suddenly shrank, and he didn't hesitate to step forward and block Jingyu's path. Xiao Chen's pitch-black eyes were filled with a dark color as he glared at Jingyu and called out, "You child!" Jingyu was blocked by Xiao Chun and had no choice but to stop. She coldly looked at Xiao Chun and said, "Get out of the way. Don't be rash. Let me finish speaking first." Xiao Chun originally had some doubts in his heart, but after hearing Jingyu's words, he instantly understood that something that could make Jingyu so furious must be Jingyu knew about Little Potato. Xiao Chen's heart trembled violently. He was afraid that Jingyu would do something stupid. "Xiao Chun, get out of the way." Jingyu looked at Xiao Chun with a fierce gaze and coldly shouted, "No." Xiao Chen's face was cold. He stepped forward and pulled Jingyu off her horse without saying anything. Jingyu stood on the ground and fiercely shook off Xiao Chen's hand. "Let go of me." Jingyu's golden green eyes were filled with coldness as she looked at Xiao Chun and said, "If I didn't discover it today, how long were you planning to hide it from me?" "Xiao Chun, why do you have to hide it from me?" Listen to me." Xiao Chun grabbed Jingyu's shoulder tightly and said, "I did this for a reason. You were emotionally unstable a while ago. I just wanted to wait until everything was clear before telling you." Xiao Chen's explanation didn't make Jingyu feel any better. Instead, she became even more irritable. She glared at Xiao Chun with her golden green eyes and said, "How long are you going to lie to me? Little Potato isn't even in Miracle Physician Valley." Little Potato was gone. Why didn't you tell me earlier?" Jingyu sounded like she was about to cry. She stared at Xiao Chun with a questioning gaze. Calm down." Xiao Chun tried to calm Jingyu down. "I can't calm down." Jingyu looked at Xiao Chun with red eyes and said, "Little Potato's whereabouts are unknown. We don't even know if he's dead or alive. How do you expect me to calm down? This is all because of the poison sect. I want the poison sect to be buried with Little Potato." Jingyu swatted away Xiao Chen's hand and walked forward with a murderous look on her face. Xiao Chen quickly reached out to stop Jingyu. "You can't go over there. That area is still in the poison zone," Xiao Chun said coldly. As Jingyu and Xiao Chun were talking, there was a commotion from the other side. Xing Shiwu had caught up. When he saw that Xiao Chun had stopped Jingyu, he finally sighed in relief. Then, he knelt down in front of Xiao Chun with a look of death on his face. This subordinate failed in his duty to protect Madam. "Master, please punish me." Xing Shiwu pursed his lips. Xiao Chun glanced at Xing Shiwu, but didn't say anything. "Get out of the way." Jingyu looked coldly at Xing Shiwu and pushed Xiao Chun aside with a wave of her hand. She coldly walked forward and snatched a bow from someone's hand. Xiao Chun saw Jingyu's actions and was stunned. He didn't know what Jingyu was doing. Chapter 1587. They watched as Jingyu casually lit a torch, lit the arrow, and shot it towards the poisoned sect's house. "Since we can't walk through, then we'll burn it all." Jingyu's golden green eyes were filled with madness. The arrow that flew out instantly set the house ablaze. In this dry weather, A casual gust of wind was enough to start a forest fire. Xiao Chun, Jing Lang, and the others were all stunned by Jing Yu's actions. Their eyes widened. Xing Yi. Xiao Chun took a deep breath and exclaimed with a cold expression. Yes, master. Interrogation Officer 1 quickly recovered from his shock. He swallowed slightly, turned to look at Xiao Chun, and bowed as he spoke. Have everyone guard this perimeter of the forest. If there's a fire, put it out immediately. Xiao Chun's eyes were fixed on Xing Yi as he said, I don't want to see the fire burn people. You guys, continue to increase the fire. Xiao Chun took a deep breath and slowly ordered. Yes. The others bowed in acknowledgement. When Hellion Theo arrived with his men, he happened to hear Xiao Chun's words. Xiao Chun turned to Hellion Theo and exchanged a glance. Hellion Theo didn't say a word as he turned and scattered towards the outskirts of the forest. Everyone was seriously guarding the fire. There was only one thought in their minds. They couldn't let the fire burn the mountain. When Xiao Chun saw that the fire was burning, he asked some guards to wear wet face towels and cut down all the trees that were likely to be burned. He looked at the scene with a solemn face. He watched as the fire burned little by little into the dark night and dyed the night sky red. The people in the town noticed the abnormality in the depths of the mountain and widened their eyes. In the originally quiet forest, a fiery red flame suddenly rose up. It was especially conspicuous in the dark night. When the people in the town saw the fire, they all panicked. What would they do if they accidentally set the forest on fire in this kind of weather? If the forest was burning, it would definitely burn towards the town. Thinking of this, everyone's eyes widened. Their eyes were filled with astonishment. The fire had been burning for the entire night. The people in the town didn't sleep at all because of the fire. Jing Yu stood in place and watched the fire burn before her eyes. She watched as the fire slowly devoured the houses of the poison sect. Compared to the grandeur of the Holy Family, the poison sect was really just a small sect. Under the onslaught of the fire, all the houses were swallowed up in an instant. Everyone was patrolling the forest, keeping an eye out for any movements in front of them. If anything happened, they would be the first to take action. Fortunately, Xiao Chun and Hellion Theo's group reacted in time and didn't encounter any problems. Jing Yu stood at the edge of the fire for the entire night. She opened her golden green eyes and admired the signs of the house being destroyed. She watched the fire burn for the entire night. When the sky began to brighten, everyone was already extremely tired after concentrating for the entire night. But Jing Yu didn't seem to be affected at all. Go find some dry wood. Jing Yu turned around, not caring who was behind her. She said indifferently, the more dry wood, the better. Chapter 1588. Yes. Xing Yi was about to ask why, but when he turned and saw Xiao Chen's expression, he slowly lowered his head and complied. Then he saw Jing Yu casually pull off a corner of her robe to cover her face. Step by step, she walked towards the still burning ruins of the poison sect. When Xiao Chun saw Jing Yu's order, he guessed what Jing Yu wanted to do. After a moment of silence, he also pulled out a black cloth from his robe and covered his face. Then he calmly walked forward. He followed behind Jing Yu without the slightest hint of anxiety. He watched as Jing Yu passed through the area and walked to the side of the boulder, as if searching for traces of the stone wall. Xiao Chun pursed his lips when he saw Jing Yu's movements, then followed along in her search. The door's switch wasn't hard to find, so Jing Yu wasn't in a hurry to open it. Instead, she turned to look at Xiao Chun. Xiao Chun understood and stood a good distance away. Jing Yu also prepared to run away at any moment before reaching out to open the door. As Jing Yu predicted, the moment the door opened, dozens of arrows flew out. The arrows were stained with poison, and when the stone door opened, Jing Yu could even see the powder on the stone door. She didn't need to look to know that it was poison. Looking at the path inside the stone door, even an ant had died. Who knew how many poisons had been sprinkled along the way? Jing Yu's eyes were filled with ice. This really was the poison sect style. After personally witnessing the poison arrow being shot out, Jing Yu and the others still didn't dare to casually step forward. When the sky brightened up and they saw that the wood that interrogation officer one had asked his men to find had been found, Jingyu calmly raised her brows and ordered someone to start a fire in the cave. Since the poison sect likes to hide in their tortoise shells so much, I'll burn them out. I like to see if these people can endure it. Jingyu's lips curled in a mocking smile as she said, "Burn them, but don't block the entrance." Yes, Xing finally understood what Jingyu wanted to do. His eyes filled with excitement. "Have people stand guard around the back of the mountain." Xiaochen spoke up from the side. "This rat is crafty. Don't let it escape at the other entrance." "Yes, this subordinate understands." Xing replied loudly. Then led a group of people to search for wood. The forest was bustling with activity, so it had to be said that the fire required patience. Jingyu's lips slowly curled up. She wasn't in a hurry as she watched the mountain burn. After a day passed, Jingyu found a cool and comfortable place to rest. Jingyu and Xiao Chun hadn't spoken for a long time. Jingyu looked at the small table in front of her, as well as the teapot and refreshments. She arched a brow and looked curiously at Xiao Chun. "You've worked hard these past few days." Xiao Chun's expression didn't change as he spoke. He very attentively poured Jingyu a cup of tea, then placed the refreshments in Jingyu's hands under everyone's resentful gazes. When the guards saw this, they were thoroughly resentful. They'd worked themselves to death watching this block of wood, but Xiao Chun hadn't said a word. Instead, he was telling Jingyu, who was sitting leisurely on the side, that it had been hard. Was he trying to say that it had been hard on his eyes? Chapter 1589. The group of guards trembled violently and hung their heads helplessly without saying a word. Comparisons were odious. They had better work seriously. If the Ninth Emperor saw them, he might reward them with a cup of tea. Jingyu looked at Xiao Chen's actions and raised her eyebrows slightly. She did not do anything else. Xiao Chen's intentions were clear. Didn't he just want to apologize to her? Did he think he could appease her with a cup of tea and some snacks? "You're dreaming too much." Jingyu turned her head away. She did not drink the tea or eat the snacks. Instead, she continued to stare at the huge flame in front of her in a daze. Xiao Chun saw Jingyu's actions, and his face stiffened. He looked at Jingyu helplessly. He knew that Jingyu was really angry this time. Furthermore, he was in the wrong this time. He should not have hidden it from Jingyu. But what should he do now? Xiao Chun frowned in confusion. How should he make Jingyu happy again? Xiao Chun sighed deeply. He was so worried that his hair turned white. In the following period of time, the group of guards saw their mighty and domineering Ninth Emperors chasing after Jingyu in a fawning manner. He served her tea and water, causing the group of guards to be shocked. Was this really the Ninth Emperors that they knew? Jingyu was annoyed by Xiao Chun. How could she not be annoyed when he followed her to the toilet? "Xiao Chun, what are you trying to do?" Jingyu finally flipped out. When Xiao Chun heard Jingyu's words, his eyes revealed a faint smile of surprise. You're finally willing to talk to me." Xiao Chun looked at Jingyu with an extremely wronged expression. His eyes were filled with joy. When Jingyu heard Xiao Chun's words, her expression froze. She glared fiercely at Xiao Chun and did not say anything. I was wrong about Little Potato. I shouldn't have hidden it from you." Xiao Chun took a deep breath and apologized sincerely. He looked at Jingyu sincerely and said, "I was just worried that you wouldn't be able to accept it. I'm sorry. Don't be angry, okay?" Xiao Chun said softly to Jingyu. "Xiao Chun, Little Potato is my child. Why didn't you tell me about it?" When Jingyu heard Xiao Chun's words, her heart heaved violently. She glared at Xiao Chun and said, "If I didn't discover it myself, how long were you planning to hide it from me? Until you found Little Potato's body." When Jingyu said this, her throat suddenly choked up. Her eyes were filled with tears. She stared at Xiao Chun and said, "If that's really the case, Xiao Chun, I will hate you to death. Xiao Chun could clearly see the coldness in Jingyu's eyes. Her gaze was so unfamiliar that it made Xiao Chun's heart tremble violently. He quickly reached out and grabbed Jingyu's hand. Jingyu coldly shook off Xiao Chun's hand and sat down on a chair. Her face was cold, and she didn't say anything. I know I was wrong. I promise there won't be a next time. Xiao Chun quickly squatted beside Jingyu and looked at Jingyu with incomparable flattery. His humble manner made Jingyu's heart soften. However, she stiffened her neck and didn't say anything. If you didn't teach Xiao Chun a lesson this time, who knew what Xiao Chun would do in the future? Chapter 1590. Jingyu turned her head away and didn't say a word. She glanced askance at Xiao Chen's panicked expression, but he didn't know what to do. Her heart softened even more. Jingyu knew that Xiao Chen was doing this for Jingyu's sake. If she had told Jingyu about this back then, Jingyu didn't know what kind of stupid thing she would have done. The fire burned for 3 days and 3 nights. Finally, on the 4th day, there was movement in the cave. Jingyu had left the door open after all. Jingyu sat indifferently in her chair when she heard coughing coming from the cave. Then, she saw people rushing out of the cave. One by one, they ran out. Deep in the mountains, they were dressed in thin robes. It was obvious that they'd taken off their clothes because it was too hot inside. Jingyu's eyes held a cold smile. She didn't say a word as she sat at her seat and watched one person after another run out. In just a few minutes, almost everyone who had been hiding in the mountains had come out. As soon as these people came out and saw the situation outside, their eyes widened slightly. Looking at the situation in front of them, their eyes flashed with a bit of fear. Jingyu also saw an acquaintance in this group of people. Jingyu slowly rose to her feet and crossed her arms as she calmly looked at the poisoned sect members. Who else could it be but Yin Tian standing at the very front? The high-spirited and high-spirited Yin Tian from before was now covered in dust. Probably because he had not drunk water for a long time, his lips were a little chapped and his eyes were filled with a greenish-black color. Young Master Yin, long time no see. Jingyu leisurely walked over and looked at Yin Tian as she spoke indifferently. I thought, young Master Yin would hide in this rat hole for a long time. What? You couldn't help but come out? Jingyu's golden-green eyes were filled with mockery. Yin Tian's expression abruptly changed when he heard her words. He fiercely clenched his teeth as he looked at Jingyu and said, My poison sect is so secretive. How did you find this place? Ha. Jingyu laughed and said happily, You'll have to ask your third Miss Nayland. If it wasn't for Miss Nayland leading the way, how could we have found this place? Said Jingyu with a smile in her eyes. When she said those words, astonishment appeared on Yin Tian's face. Immediately after, he turned his head and looked to the side. In the middle of the crowd, Na Lanue was no longer wearing her bright red clothes. Instead, she was wearing a pitch-black robe that seemed to want nothing more than to cover her entire face. When Jingyu saw Nayland Yu's appearance, her eyes filled with curiosity. In Jingyu's memories, Nayland Yu was someone who wanted nothing more than to wear as little as possible. She wanted nothing more than to show off her face so that everyone would notice her. But now, Nayland Yu wanted nothing more than to hide her entire body. When Jingyu suddenly spoke, her body trembled violently, and she unconsciously took a few steps back. But since Yin Tian had spoken, the people around Nayland Yu instinctively backed away. This time, Nayland Yu was completely exposed. Chapter 1591. Nayland Yu, we meet again. Jingyu smiled as she looked at Nayland Yu. She then saw Nayland Yu's body fiercely tremble. Under the gaze of Jingyu and the others, Nayland Yu slowly raised her head. The moment she raised her beautiful face, Jingyu was frightened. Her originally delicate face was now covered with unknown spots. Her eyes were sunken and her lips were incomparably dry. Her hair was extremely messy and her eyes were protruding out of her head. How could the current Nayland Yu have the elegance of a beauty from before? Jingyu, all of this was part of your plan. When Nayland Yu opened her mouth to speak, her voice became even more ear-piercing. Her originally clear and beautiful voice was now extremely hoarse. It was obvious that her throat had been damaged. When Xiao Chun and the others saw Nayland Yu's appearance, their eyes revealed a trace of astonishment. Then, they turned their gazes towards Jingyu. They originally thought that this was done by Jingyu, but when they saw that Jingyu's eyes were also filled with astonishment, they immediately denied their own thoughts. If this wasn't done by Jingyu, then what was going on with Nailan? Oh. When Jingyu heard Nailan Yu's words, her eyes slightly narrowed as she said, "It seems that the man I found for you is not bad. He served our Miss Nailan to the point that even her voice became hoarse." Jingyu. The moment Jingyu's words fell, Nailan Yu's eyes were filled with tyranny. She seemed to be embarrassed and angry as she madly rushed towards Jingyu. Jingyu didn't let anyone stop her. She looked at Nailan Yu's limping feet and smiled disdainfully. The moment Nailan Yu rushed forward, Jingyu's foot kicked out without hesitation. Nailan Yu was kicked to the ground by Jingyu's foot. Cough, cough. Nailan Yu clutched her chest and lightly coughed a few times. She turned to look at Jingyu with an icy gaze. Her body trembled slightly and fiercely as she said, "You planned all of this. You purposely revealed a flaw and let people save me. Your goal was to find the poison sect." When Nailan Yu said this, her body was already violently trembling. Her lips couldn't help but tremble. In an instant, she seemed to understand many things, and her large eyes bulged as she stared at Jingyu and said, "You never wanted to let go. You used me. You used me to personally destroy the poison sect." Jingyu laughed disdainfully as she said, "It looks like you're not completely brainless after all. But now that you know everything, what can you do?" Jingyu smiled as if she didn't care at all. She spread her hands towards Nailan Yu. The corners of her mouth had a smile on it, and her eyes were bright and dazzling. Nailan Yu was looking at her, as if she was looking at an incomparably filthy thing. Why did things turn out like this? She should be the one shining in all directions. She should be the lofty one. Why did so many changes happen in the blink of an eye? Right now, she was like a lowly servant lying on the ground. Nailan Yu's heart was filled with unwillingness as she glared at Jingyu. Her chest heaved little by little. Chapter 1592. But I'm very curious. Jingyu crossed her arms as she looked at Nailan Yu and said, "Yin Tian couldn't be that stupid, right? He actually sacrificed the lives of the entire poison sect for a pawn like you just to save you? I really want to know who saved you." As Jingyu spoke, she turned her gaze to Yin Tian. Then, she said indifferently, "During the march, who was the one who gave the order to poison us?" "Yin Tian, are you really that stupid?" Jingyu said indifferently, "I told Yin Jing to cut off his own arm to give your poison sect a way out. But you people didn't care at all and attacked again and again, forcing me to force your poison sect into a dead end. Now, can you tell me all about it?" Jingyu calmly narrowed her eyes as she looked at the people in front of her. Then she said calmly, "Perhaps I'll be happy to hear it and kill fewer people." "Jingyu, listen to me." When Yin Tian heard Jingyu's words, he quickly stepped forward and said agitatedly, "I definitely didn't do it." "HM." And then? Jingyu calmly narrowed her eyes and calmly looked at Yin Tian, indicating for him to continue. "When Yin Jing came back, he told me everything. After that, we stopped meddling in this matter," Yin Tian said anxiously. Yin Tian anxiously said, "I wasn't the one who poisoned the army and saved Nailan Yu. Then who had such great ability?" Jingyu calmly curled her lips as she said, "Aren't you the eldest young master of the poison sect? How could there be someone with more power than you? How could you mobilize the poison sect's people so casually?" Yin Tian paused and seemed a little uneasy as he said, "It was Ling Xian who did it." Ling Xian. When Jingyu heard this name, her expression instantly became incomparably fascinating. She seemed to have thought of something as she looked around and asked, "Where's Yun Jing?" Yun Jing left after he came back to report what happened. "I don't know where he went." Yin Tian pursed his lips and said, "My poison sect really doesn't want to make an enemy out of you. Is that so?" Jingyu narrowed her eyes and looked at Yin Tian with a deep gaze. She slowly said, "Since you didn't do it, then what are you afraid of? Why are you hiding?" "HM." Jingyu's soft voice rang out as she looked at Yin Tian with a faint amusement. She calmly said, Young Master Yun, you knew about this from the start? And you didn't stop it? When Jingyu finished speaking, Yin Tian's face suddenly turned deathly pale. When Jingyu saw Yin Tian's expression, she knew that she must have guessed correctly. Her lips curled into a faint smile as she leisurely walked towards Yin Tian. Jingyu, this matter really has nothing to do with me. If you want to find someone for revenge, go find Ling Xian. Yin Tian looked at Jingyu's approaching footsteps and felt a little frightened. He carefully took a small step back. Ling Xian is already dead, Jingyu calmly said. What? Impossible. When Yin Tian heard Jingyu's words, his eyes filled with shock. Without thinking, he said, how could Ling Xian die so easily? Yin Jing hasn't been found yet, so Ling Xian can't possibly die. Chapter 1593. She died right in front of me. Jingyu's eyes were calm as she looked at Yin Tian. Ling Xian took poison and killed herself. No, that's not right. When Yin Tian heard Jingyu's words, he exclaimed in shock. Ling Xian was the daughter of the previous sect master. She was born with a constitution that made her immune to poison. How could she have taken poison and killed herself? What did you say? Jingyu trembled violently at Yin Tian's words. Her face was filled with rage as she recalled the scene in the forest. At the time, Jingyu and Xiao Chun had been so focused on Little Potato that they hadn't paid attention to whether Ling Xian was dead or alive. Now that Yin Tian said this, the two of them immediately felt something was wrong. Jingyu turned her head slightly to look at Xiao Chun. The two of them looked at each other with a serious look in their eyes. Then, as if they had thought of something, they frowned fiercely. Ling Xian. Jingyu clenched her fists and turned to speak to Xiao Chun. She wanted Xiao Chun to investigate what was going on. When Yin Tian saw that his words were effective, he silently wiped away the cold sweat on his forehead and sighed deeply. Just as Yin Tian was thinking about it, he was already halfway to success. As long as he could protect the poison sect, that would be good. But just as he was thinking this, he turned his head and saw Nailin Yu, who had been sitting on the ground, take out a dagger that glowed with a green light. It was obvious that the dagger had been dipped in poison. Otherwise, why would it have such a color? Watch out! Yin Tian didn't even think as he shouted. At a time like this, he couldn't let anything happen to Jingyu. Otherwise, Xiao Chun would definitely kill everyone in the poison sect. Yin Tian never thought that Nailin Yu would be so bold. She didn't give up at a time like this, and even rushed towards Jingyu. Jingyu was talking to Xiao Chun. Clearly, she hadn't expected Jingyu to be so reckless. Seeing the figure rushing over, Jingyu's expression changed. Shock filled her eyes as she watched Nailin Yu approach. But the moment Nailin Yu got close to Jingyu, Xiao Chun reached out and pulled Jingyu behind him. At the same time, the long sword in his hand pierced through Nailin Yu's body. Jingyu's pupils shrank. She saw with her own eyes that Nailin Yu had also thrust out a long sword from behind her. Huff, huff. Nailin Yu's eyes were fixed on Jingyu behind Xiao Chun. Her eyes were filled with unwillingness. The dagger in her hand fell to the ground, and she knelt down. She lowered her head and looked at the two long swords in her hands. Her pitch-black eyes were filled with despair as she stared at Xiao Chun. She stared at Xiao Chun's face and felt her blood flow away. In this daze, she seemed to see the days she had spent with Xiao Chun. Back then, Xiao Chun still had a warm smile on his face. No matter what she said, Xiao Chun would treat her gently. Those days really made Nailin Yu sink into them. She even almost forgot her goal. Nailin Yu thought that if things could really go on like this, how good would that be? But she couldn't forget her goal. Every time the poison flared up, she would suffer a fate worse than death. Chapter 1594. Originally, she thought that this kind of pain was the most painful, but now, Nailin Yu felt that there was no other kind of pain. It was the pain of having someone you deeply love kill you with their own hands. Tears began to appear in Nailin Yu's eyes. If she was given a chance to choose again, she would probably still choose to protect herself, but No matter how much she loved someone else, it would never be as deep as her love for herself. Nailin Yu opened her mouth slightly, as if she wanted to call out Xiao Qin's name, but she couldn't say another word. At this moment, the person standing behind Nailin Yu walked over with steady steps and stood in front of her. When Nailin Yu saw who the person standing in front of her was, her pupils shrank and her body began to violently tremble. At this moment, it was as if she had used all the strength in her body to tightly grab onto the clothes of the person in front of her. Master! The shadow slowly squatted down in front of Nailin Yu. That hideous scarred face was extremely familiar to Nailin Yu. When she heard the words Master, Nailin Yu's heart almost collapsed in that instant. Nailin Yu would never have thought that the person who had stabbed her with a sword would be the shadow. Back then, the lowly man who had always followed by her side, the man who had always been by her side, the man who had used all his strength to protect her. But now why had he become the person who had taken her life with his own hands? Nailin Yu's body began to violently tremble, and a feeling of regret slowly rose in her heart. Under this kind of grief and indignation, it was magnified bit by bit, slowly eroding Nailin Yu's body and mind. Ming. Nailin Yu seemed to have used up all the strength in her body as she slowly spat out a name. The moment this name was spat out, the shadow's face immediately changed. A pair of deep and serene eyes quietly stared at Nailin Yu. He saw the intense regret in Nailin Yu's eyes, and the regret brewing in those eyes was so great. In the end, she still regretted it. The corners of the shadow's mouth curled up into a mocking smile. He looked at Nailin Yu without the slightest ripple in his eyes. This beautiful woman who had once illuminated his life, when had she become like this? The shadow's memory was a little fuzzy. She was the one who had rescued him from the devil's den, and she was also the one who had abandoned him. He still remembered how he had tried his best to attract her attention back then, no matter how dangerous the mission was. No matter how disgusting the task was, no matter how much he hated it, he could still complete it perfectly. With a heart full of joy, he came in front of her, only wanting to see her smile at him. Even if she wanted him to die for that smile, he would be willing to do so. This person, back then, he was the one who risked his life to protect his master. But now, he was the one who had to kill him with his own hands. He had done it. He had killed her, and he had seen the remorse in her eyes. Just as he had died, he had heard her call out that name. He couldn't remember how long it had been since he had heard Nailin Yu call out that name. So she still remembered. The shadow slowly stretched out his hand and covered Nailin Yu's face. He gently wiped away the tears on Nailin Yu's face. His actions were very gentle. How many times had he buried his love in his heart? How many times had he been hurt? You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.